Prince Zektar of the Vorthak Empire had never known defeat. His 3-meter frame, covered in chitinous armor that gleamed like polished obsidian, had dominated every arena across 17 star systems. The 4 razor-sharp appendages that served as his primary weapons had never failed to find their mark. In Vorthak culture, combat prowess determined one's worth, and Zektar was considered the finest warrior of his generation. The human delegation had arrived at the Vorthak homeworld 3 cycles ago, seeking to establish trade relations. Most of the Empire's nobles viewed these soft pink creatures with disdain. They were small, fragile-looking beings who claimed to represent something called the Terran Federation. What could such weak creatures possibly offer the mighty Vorthak? Captain Elena Rodriguez, the human diplomat, had maintained her composure throughout the increasingly hostile negotiations. But when Prince Zektar publicly declared that humans were pathetic parasites unworthy of breathing the same air as true warriors, something shifted in her expression. "Your Highness," she said, her voice carrying a strange calm that made several Vorthak nobles lean forward. In human culture, such words would typically be answered with a challenge. Zektar's mandibles clicked in amusement. "A challenge? You wish to face me in combat, little soft skin?" "Not me," Elena replied, gesturing to a figure who had remained silent throughout the proceedings. "But my security chief might be interested." The human who stepped forward was unremarkable by Vorthak standards. Commander Sarah Chen stood barely 2 meters tall, her frame lean rather than massive. She wore simple combat attire, no armor, no visible weapons except for a single curved blade at her side. To the Vorthak court, she looked like prey. "I accept your challenge on behalf of humanity's honor," Chen said, her voice steady. The arena fell silent. In 3 centuries of Vorthak history, no alien had ever issued a formal challenge to royal blood. The ancient laws were clear, however. Such challenges could not be refused without bringing eternal shame upon one's lineage. "Very well," Zektar hissed, his voice carrying both amusement and anticipation. "Tomorrow at the hour of twin suns we duel. Victory through death or surrender. These are the only acceptable conclusions." That evening, as the court buzzed with excitement and placed wagers on how quickly the human would fall, Elena found Chen on the observation deck of their ship. "Are you certain about this, Sarah?" Elena asked. "The prince has killed 47 opponents in formal duels." Chen continued sharpening her katana, the ancient earth blade that had been passed down through 5 generations of her family. "He's never faced a human, Elena. They don't understand what we're capable of when we're fighting for something greater than personal glory." The next day, 10,000 Vorthak filled the grand arena. Prince Zektar entered to thunderous approval, his ceremonial armor gleaming, his 4 weapon arms extended in a display of lethal grace. The crowd's roar turned to confused murmurs when the human entered. Chen wore no armor. Her only weapon was the katana, still sheathed at her side. She walked to the center of the arena with the measured pace of someone approaching a meditation session rather than a death match. "Begin!" roared the arena master. Zektar launched himself forward with terrifying speed, his 4 weapon arms weaving a deadly pattern that had overwhelmed countless enemies. The attack that came should have ended the duel in seconds. But Chen was no longer where she had been. The human moved like water, flowing around Zektar's strikes with an economy of motion that seemed to violate physics. Her blade remained sheathed as she danced between attacks that would have shredded steel. The crowd fell silent, watching something they had never seen before. Their prince missing. For 3 minutes, Zektar attacked with increasing fury while Chen simply evaded. Not once did the human draw her weapon. Not once did she counterattack. She moved with a fluidity that spoke of decades of training, of a discipline the Vorthak had never encountered. Finally, exhausted and confused, Zektar stumbled. In that moment of vulnerability, Chen could have ended the fight a dozen ways. Instead, she stepped back and waited for him to recover. "Why do you not attack?" Zektar demanded, his breathing labored. "Because I don't need to," Chen replied calmly. "You're fighting to prove your superiority. I'm fighting to prove a point." Enraged, Zektar renewed his assault. This time Chen drew her blade, not to attack but to deflect. Steel rang against chitin as she turned aside every strike with minimal effort, her katana becoming an extension of her will. Still, she did not attack. The pattern continued for another 10 minutes. Zektar, the greatest warrior of his generation, could not land a single blow on the human. More importantly, the crowd began to realize something profound. The human was holding back. Every defensive motion was precise, controlled, deliberate. She could have killed their prince 100 times over. When Zektar finally collapsed from exhaustion, Chen sheathed her blade and knelt beside him. "In my culture," she said quietly, loud enough for the arena's sensors to carry her words to every corner, "true strength isn't measured by how many you can kill. It's measured by how many you choose not to kill even when you could." She stood and addressed the crowd. "Prince Zektar is a formidable warrior, but he fights for glory, for dominance, for the approval of others. Humans fight for each other. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight so that others don't have to." As she helped the prince to his feet, she whispered, "Your Highness, you are strong. But strength without restraint, without purpose beyond self-aggrandizement, is just violence. Your people deserve better from their leaders." The arena remained silent as Chen walked away, her point made not through violence, but through the conscious choice to reject it. In the days that followed, Prince Zektar would replay the duel countless times. He began to understand that he had not faced a superior warrior. He had faced a superior philosophy. The humans had shown him something the Vorthak had forgotten in their pursuit of dominance, that true power lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to create, protect, and preserve. The trade agreement was signed within the week, but more importantly, it marked the beginning of a fundamental shift in Vorthak society. They had learned through a human's restraint what it truly meant to be strong, and Prince Zektar, for the first time in his life, understood what it meant to be humbled not by defeat, but by grace.